So Celtic kept the same structure as before, 4-3-3, but Midtjylland changed to what looked like a 3-4-3 when they kind of had the ball, and then without the ball, and when they retreated back to their own half, it was more like a sort of 5-4-1 out of possession. Now, they did exactly what they did against Celtic the first time round. They let the centre halves have the ball. Celtic actually didn't do their fullback, inverted fullback option as much in that game. They kept the fullbacks fairly wide at times. They didn't overuse it. But the Midtjylland forward three just sat in there. Their striker kind of picked up Sorrow to stop him getting involved so much in the build-up. And what you can see here when it's spread out across the board is really when you're passing round, you're just going into these areas here where they can then start their press. Usually when the ball went back twice, so it goes forward and goes back, that's when they'd shift up as a unit. If you look at positions wise, if Christie and Abada stay wide, then the wide men can deal with that there, which leaves Edouard with a back three. And again, even if Turnbull or McGregor drift off the midfielders there, you've got centre halves to deal with it as well. But you can see there, just from the picture there, it can leave Edouard isolated. It's really surrendering possession into the fullbacks, which is arguably Celtic's weakest part of the team at the moment. And again, the two front players that Midtjylland have are very quick and agile in the press, so can apply pressure quickly. So tactically, it was quite a clever move from Midtjylland to play like that, and I do think it did stifle Celtic a lot, especially in the first half. So one thing I think that Sorrow could improve on in the middle of the park is, in those two games, he's pretty much been man-marked by the striker. He's dropped back in deep, and he's often kept his position. Now, I think at that point he needs to realise that he's not going to be involved in the play and get on the ball. So when the ball is on like the right-hand side, for example, and he did this in the first 4 minutes of the game, but again, didn't do it too often after that, he pulled himself right into this position here. And that dragged the striker out, and it left a space in the middle. Now, at this point, McGregor was a little bit higher up, Christie was wide, Taylor was wide, so the players on Midtjylland's right hand side were over there, and Turnbull just moved off his man and dropped into this space in here, received the pass, turned, and then drove forward. And because all these other guys are picked up, his man's got to get all the way across, and I think he had a 1-2 with Edouard that got blocked out. But again, that type of movement creates space and allows Celtic to get forward, and once they get past that part of Midtjylland's midfield, then they've got three attacking players in that area with somebody carrying the ball. And I think in the first 4 minutes it looked like they were being a bit clever and trying to counter what Midtjylland were doing. But again, throughout the game they were quite set in their positions, and they didn't rotate and move as often as I think they should have done. One thing I noticed in the first half was Celtic tended to just move the ball quite slowly, and they weren't really willing to carry the ball up and kind of commit a man forward from Midtjylland to try and engage the press. One point though, again, there was a great bit of movement that just never worked out. They worked the ball wide to Ralston, so this brought out Midtjylland's left winger. Turnbull dropped into this position here to receive it. But as that was all happening, the striker for Midtjylland in the middle kind of got lost ball watching a bit, and Sorrow moved into this space in here. Now, the ball went into Turnbull, and he was quite quickly closed down. But again, this position Sorrow was in was fantastic. Now, if Turnbull had dropped in a little bit closer, a little bit less on the pass from Ralston, it could have been a one round the corner, and in that position they had Abada, Edouard, Christie and McGregor all in this position, and that's such a great position to be in. You're basically a 4v2, this guy was just recovering in as well. But what happened was the ball went back to Welsh, and again the distance between the midfield and the defenders were so far back that even he couldn't have threaded that pass through from there, and it worked back to the keeper, and then Midtjylland just moved themselves up the park again. So again, another example of, I think the players are starting to learn, they're starting to know where to go, but there just doesn't seem to be that execution at the moment for those different creative bits of movement to try and get in behind teams. So one good example came from actually a little bit of everything. Had an inverted fullback movement, had a fullback staying wide, and it just showed you what this shape and positioning can do to teams out of possession. So as the ball goes from Welsh back to Bain, McGregor signals to Taylor to come in. Now what that does is it keeps Midtjylland's widest midfielder or fullback, wingback, whatever you want to call him, out into that position, and Taylor drifts into here. As the press starts and it goes in from here, because of that movement from Taylor coming in, This central midfielder moves off David Turnbull to go into that position there. Sorrow's being marked by the other midfielder because their striker's now off pressing the ball. Ralston moves into this position here, and Bain finds him straight in here, one touch round the corner, and again, Celtic are in behind with that positioning. So again, it just shows if they are patient in the ball, patient in the build-up, and they are able to trigger those movements at the right times, in 2 passes, they're able to get behind, 2 lines of pressure and get in behind the opposition. So again, some positives to take from that. One area of the game that I think Celtic still need to improve is playing out from the back, and obviously they want to play out and they want to use the inverted fullbacks, whether it be Ralston coming in like that, or whether that be Taylor coming into this side, and obviously McGregor dropping out, which we've spoke about before. But there's times when you don't have to move like that, and actually when they were playing against that 3-4-3, they have an extra man in midfield. So playing out, because the striker Midtjylland wanted to press aggressively on the goalkeeper and the 2 centre halves, there was always players free, and I think there was times where if Ralston just held his position in here and Welsh was able to go in and go back to Bain, who could maybe move into one of those half spaces, I think Sorrow, there could have been lots of opportunities for him to get on the ball and play and turn forward. Even if he was put under pressure coming in to do that, again, then you've got options for Bain to clip the ball long. And he actually did that in the first half, about 35 minutes in, where the ball came back in here. As Sorrow's been pressed by another player, Turnbull's free, and Christie actually comes across from the far side, goes in, flicks on, he gives it back to Turnbull. Edwards spins to go in behind, and unfortunately they recover, Midtjylland recover, and the ball ends up going back. But again, it's another great option to utilise. In the second half, I think Murray clipped one long into Edward, who was able just to bounce it straight back to Christie, and then you had Turnbull, you had Forrest, all attacking in that one time. So again, going into future games and going into the weekend, if you're playing against a 3-4-3, which I think Hearts might set up in, then there is opportunities to clip the ball long, and it's not an aimless long ball, it's tactical. You play it into their chest, you hold it up, and you have those runners coming off, because already you've got a bad wide, you've got Christie coming in to link the game. There's a lot of good options to attack there.